Hey everybody, J.R. Fisher here. It is Saturday morning, the 4th of September. Can you believe that? We're almost through 2021 and it seemed like 2020 lasted forever. What the heck happened? Welcome everybody. I want to thank you for being here today. Please don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button down there. Turn it from red to gray. Ring the bell, turn all bell notifications so you're notified each and every time I go live. Man, this is going to be a fun session today, guys. This is a creative session. And I tell you what, in this session today, hey, what's going on, Tyann? Happy Saturday. Good to see you, girl. Today in this session, I'm going to explain to you what creativity is, why some of the studies you heard about this are totally wrong, that right brain, left brain thing. Nah, not true. And I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to show you the studies. I'm going to prove it to you. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how you can be creative. Anybody listening to this today can be creative. I'm going to give you the steps to do it. And I know like this past week, Monday through Friday, I did training on how to sell stuff online and build your audience and do all this stuff. And a lot of you probably thought, well, I'm not creative enough to do that. Yes, you are. And I'm going to explain to you why you think you're not, and why you actually are, and exactly how you can be more creative. I mean, this is going to be awesome today. It really is. I'm really excited about this. So guys, feel free to participate. I love your participation. I love when you put comments in there. I love when you put suggestions and questions and all that stuff. Even if you say just hello, like Tyann has said here, say hello. I mean, just say hello. Now, some of you may not be able to watch this live, and I totally understand that. I totally get this. However, if you're not watching it live, I can still talk to you. I can talk to you. Just put your comments in that comment session or section down there, and I will respond to you. I need a shave today, but I think I'm going to do that this evening. I think we're going to go out to dinner, so I'm going to do that this evening. But guys, welcome so much. I just really appreciate you guys being here. And I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to start talking about this creativity thing. We've heard about it our entire lives. We've heard some crazy studies on it and all this kind of stuff. And I want to kind of dispel some of those myths that you hear, that really is kind of holding you back. Because for years, we've heard the wrong stuff. There's an entire generation of people that actually grew up believing they aren't creative because somebody in high school told them they weren't good at art. Art has nothing to do with creativity. That's just a different talent altogether. And that can be a learned talent too, if that's what you want to do. Until recently, the standard definition of creativity was really narrow, okay? It was either like you're creative or you're not creative. Craziness, total craziness. The perception was that creative people were those who are artistic or more precisely good at drawing. Unsurprisingly, like many others, I kind of wrote myself off as not creative when I was younger. I focused on science stuff and math stuff and all. Told myself that, it was natural to fall into one of those categories, the logic thing or the creativity thing. And so I kind of felt that the education system, coupled with parental expectation, that's another big one, encourages people to place themselves into one category or another. That's just not true. It's not true. And I'm going to show you scientifically why it's not true. But this isn't how creativity works. And this kind of thinking is the reason why you probably have trouble tapping into your creative parts of your brain. Now, first things first, your thoughts influence your actions, okay? So you might be wondering, what do your thoughts about creativity have to do whether you're creative or not? Well, they have a lot to do with it. The short answer is, think about a comfortable home, a really nice family, successful business, a nice welcoming atmosphere. People actually create those things, okay? Often not by accident. Tyann says, yes, agreed. I have always been more linguistically talented. But there's so many other things you could do, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. People actually create those things. So somewhere along the line, they put in their minds, they decided to make those things happen, okay? They don't happen on their own. They may run into doubt from time to time, but deep down inside, they know that it's something they can do. Now, when I started studying all this, I heard a lot of talk about brain lateralization. Now, here's how that works. It's the idea that people have a left brain and a right brain. Now, personally, it's a popular idea that refuses to die, but it's not true. The concept was based on research conducted, get this, in the 1960s, but all the research was flawed. Researchers studied the brains of people with epilepsy. That's what they did to come up with this theory, whose hemispheres, each side of the brain, had been surgically severed. So they weren't connecting, okay? These individuals had the thick bundle of fibers connecting the brain's hemisphere cut as a last resort to prevent them from having epileptic seizures. In these studies, researchers were able to present stimuli to one hemisphere at a time and observe contrasting processing styles. They found that the right hemisphere was important for emotional processing and the left hemisphere governed language and rational thought. And you were just saying something about language there, Tyann. At first glance, these findings seem to back up that binary creative or not thinking, but the division, that's the key. The division was that one had been creative somewhat artificially. When it became possible to look at healthy, connected brains engaged in creative thought, and this is from a 1991 MRI scanning research, it was far less simplistic picture that had emerged. It turns out that the bridge between the hemispheres, the corpus, they call it callosum, was the key to creative thought. It was that bridge. Now, they had severed it in the first study. So since the early 1990s, we've come to develop a more thorough and accurate understanding of what brain engaged in creative thought looks like. So the key, it seems, is integration, the firing of strong lateral networks connecting a diverse range of brain pathways in both hemispheres. Now, this may sound kind of like really high level stuff, but I'm going to explain to you, you can change all this stuff in just a second. So an international team of researchers led by Professor Roger Beatty at Penn State identified a pattern of brain connectivity that is associated with idea generation. That's what real creativity is. It's idea generation. And actually, this is something you can grow. And I'm going to give you the steps in just a second. In their 2014 study, now that's pretty current, 2014 study, researchers put people in a brain scanner and they asked them to come up with new uses for everyday objects like, I don't know, a sock or soap or chewing gum wrapper or something like that. Some people stuck to the everyday common uses and they found, what did they find? They found some unusual things going on. As a result, they were actually likely to answer with obvious examples, such as, some people would say, well, sock is for feet covering or and bubble gums for blowing bubbles. Highly original thinkers, in contrast, showed robust connectivity between three networks of the brain: mind wandering, focused thinking, and selective attention. They came up with varied and creative suggestions, such as water filtration for a sock, or a seal for envelopes, or an antenna wire for the gum wrapper. So how can we learn to cultivate creative thinking? That's the important part, because we're trying to do these sales pages. We're trying to write emails. We're trying to, advertise our stuff and market our stuff. So I'm going to give you some steps and then exercises you can actually work on. But to turn creative thinking into habit, try following these things. The first one, this sounds counterintuitive, but let your mind actually wander a little bit. Challenge yourself to think up ideas around a topic or a problem at the same time. That's hard to do, right? It's essential to try and stop yourself from self-policing, and don't discount some of your more lateral ideas before they reach the page, okay? So let that mind wandering thing start. And guys, don't forget, put your questions, put your comments, put your suggestions in that chat. I can stop here talking and I can go over here and answer any of your questions. So I'll be happy to do that. Next thing you want to do, this is super important, reduce distraction. This is a big killer of creativity. You got to free up your brain to focus on things that matter by doing a mini digital detox or tidying up your workspace, okay? So you don't want to be bombarded in your brain with distracting visual cues when you're trying to focus. So try to get rid of everything that's going to bother you around you. People, sounds, music, dogs, whatever it is. Get rid of all of it. It's just you, okay? Focus on just you. Next thing you want to do, improve your capacity for selective attention by practicing mindfulness. Have you ever heard of mindfulness? Mindfulness is simply realizing what's going on in this particular moment. It's like our mind is always wandering back to the past about stuff that had happened, or to the future of things we want to happen or stuff we're going to work on. But a simple daily breath meditation is a good way to draw yourself back to reality and to retrain yourself to notice the present moment. So it's just basically some deep breathing and try not to think of anything, okay? Nothing, just be in that moment. Hard thing to do, but you can do this stuff, okay? You can definitely do this stuff. Next thing, which is going to be the opposite of all these other things, read a novel, okay? Or, go see a show. Cultural activities, such as going to the theater or even just reading a fiction book, can actually strengthen the connections between these two halves of the brain, which helps you create, build this creative thought. These simple practices will free you up into thinking a more lateral and creative ways. Now, I want to give you some more exercises too. And I've got a list of them here, and I would suggest writing them down. You're going to have these because it's so easy to forget some of these things. Okay. It's so easy to forget some of these things. All right. So the first thing is, I would tell you, for cultivating creativity along with a sampling of tips that can help you along the way, is number one, ask the right question. Ask the right question. Okay. So the beginnings of, let's say, Starbucks and Instagram, neither company would be here today if its founders had continued to try to solve the original questions they sought to answer. Instead of asking, how can I recreate the Italian espresso bar in the United States? Okay, that's what one of them did, because he went on a trip to Italy and came back and talked to his employer and said, hey, Howard Schultz eventually looked at what was working with that idea and instead asked, how can I create a more comfortable, relaxing environment to enjoy great coffee? And he approached his boss with that because he was involved in the coffee business. And his boss says, I don't want to do that. I'm fine the way I am. However, if you would like to do it, I will help you get started. Okay. And while Kevin Systrom originally pondered how he would create a great location sharing app, a better question turned out to be, how can we create a simple photo sharing app? That's how Instagram started. Okay. So they looked at this stuff differently. So what you want to do is quickly, without overthinking it, write 10 variations of the same question. For example, the classic question, how can I build a better mousetrap? Okay, we've always heard that, right? Well, you may ask the questions like, how do I get the mice out of my house? Okay, and what does a mouse want? Okay, or how can I make my backyard more attractive to a mouse than my house, my actual house? So one of your new questions will likely be better than the one that was the original. So the next thing you can do is debug your life, okay? Brutally criticize an imperfect product or situation you come in contact with every single day. And I tend to do this, but not intentionally. I just do. I'm like, gosh, they could do this better. And I think, my one thinking is that all waiters are going to be gone soon. There's not going to be a waiter in a restaurant anywhere in America because they're useless. They're really useless if you think about it, guys. What they're doing is they're taking your order and walking to the kitchen and telling people what you want. That can be done on an iPad on your table. And then the other problem is when you do need them, let's say you need some more ketchup, let's say you need more water or whatever, you can't find them. They're not around. So my thinking is, and somebody will steal this and use it, I'm sure, when you go to a restaurant, you don't need a host or hostess, right? Because the restaurant knows how many tables it has. It knows based on how many people came in and what time they came in, how long the wait's going to be. So if you go into a restaurant, there could be an iPad at the front of the restaurant. We could hit, I'm here. Matter of fact, I did it yesterday at Kura Revolving Sushi. They had an iPad there. And you put in there how many people it was, or you were, and you put if you wanted to, sit at the bar, if you wanted to sit at a table. And then it calculated how long the wait would be, and it told you how long the wait would be, and it gave you a number. Now, what they did is they had somebody come up there and say, hey, number 22, your table's ready. But they don't have to. They could have just sent you a text, and they could have said, go to table 14, and they could have sent you a map of the restaurant and the route to get there, and you could have just walked over to the table. Now, when you're sitting down at the table at that restaurant and you need some water, or you need that ketchup or whatever, you don't need to have a waiter. All you need to do is hit a button. I want water, I want ketchup, I want more mayo, whatever it is. And that signal can be sent to the kitchen, and somebody could be a runner in the kitchen and bring that out to you. That's all that's needed for a restaurant. We don't need waiters and waitresses. And I'm not picking on waiters and waitresses right now, but guys, this is a fact. And you're seeing it also in grocery stores now. I mean, I go into grocery stores now and you ring up your own groceries. Why do you need a cashier? You're taking an item and you're handing it to them and they're running it over a scanner. You can do that. That's quite simple. You can do that. Now, the one thing I will hear from people is that, well, wine and beer and alcohol and all that, you gotta have a cashier for that. Why? Because they got to see your driver's license. You can't just hold that up to a scanner. Of course you can. And it can do facial recognition. It will know if it's you. So even that can be done. You're going to see, and I'm already seeing it at Costco. You go into Costco now, they have a self checkout line that's much faster than all the other lines. You go into Panera Bread and pretty much you walk up to an iPad and order your food, go sit down, and your table number is on the table and they bring the food out to you. We don't need waiters and waitresses. We don't need cashiers anymore. If you're in one of those occupations, you had better listen to me about starting an online business because you're going to be done. You're going to be done. So that's the debugging your life type thing. You're going to be over with. Now, the next thing you want to do is make something and then reinterpret it. Okay. So sometimes before you get the right decision, you have come to make something else. So once you do, think of a creation being used for purposes other than its original intent. This process throws away your first assumptions, forcing you to consider new perspectives. Now, the next thing I'm going to tell you, and this is going to scare some of you, but it shouldn't. I did it. You can do it. Become an expert at something. Become an expert. The secret to exceptional success doesn't lie in natural ability. It never has, guys, but it's deliberate practice. In fact, research suggests that being world-class at anything requires about 10,000 hours of practice. Now, that scares some people. They're like, well, I don't want to spend 10,000 hours doing anything. The problem with that thinking is that you will spend 10,000 hours if you don't do a thing doing nothing, right? Because the 10,000 hours is going to pass anyhow. Why not invest it in something that's going to do you good? Why not become an expert in something? I chose to learn how to do stuff online. I chose to become a marketer online. I chose to make millions of dollars online selling digital and physical products. And that worked out. It's only worked out because I started studying it. I didn't know what I was doing when I started out. I didn't know how to send an email properly. I didn't know what to do. Trying to declutter my environment. And I want to add something to that declutter thing. I want to go back for just 1 second. If I could show you my desk right now, you would see there's no paper on it. No paper whatsoever. I don't have any paper on my desk. If you could see my entire office, which I've done a tour of my office before, but if you could see my entire office, you would see there's no paper in my office. My wife and I had decided that we don't want paperwork. Now I have one little cubby when mail comes in and certain things I got to keep. I'll put it there, but it's out of my sight. I have to go to that area and go look for it. Okay. In that one little tiny area. And I mean, like it's an area like this. Okay. So it can't hold much. So I have to sort through it and get rid of stuff. But you have become an expert in one area or another, probably already in your life. Successful creators don't just like knowledge. They thirst for knowledge. Okay. See, I want to know every single way I can market something online. They can't stop asking questions and they always go beyond what they've learned from teachers and books because teachers and books are very limited. Okay. So there's a whole lot of different ways you can do this. I suggest you listen to TED Talks. TED Talks will really open your mind. Google 6 TED Talks every entrepreneur should watch. Google that one and you're going to see some really great ones. Use all your senses to thoroughly delve into a subject. Let's say you want to learn about, I don't know, the town of Mestris, Greece. Okay, let's pick something crazy. You could learn more about Greek language. You could search for photos about the Peloponnese online. You could cook some of the traditional food. You could watch videos of traditional festivals. You could stream its local radio and mail in and keeper there to get inside information about what the town is really like. You could get a mentor. There's a lot of stuff you could do to become an expert on that particular thing. I thought somebody was coming through my office door there. Sorry about that. So the next thing you can do, and this is a tough one for a lot of people, be open and aware. Be open and aware. Creative people are always on the lookout for possible solutions. You can do this by becoming more aware and practicing what I say earlier, mindfulness, which involves intentionally noticing things that are not pegging people. Okay, you meet based on their expectations. So don't peg people on your expectations. Make sure that what you're doing is you're opening your mind to them. Okay, they could be a great resource for you, and you may not realize it. Instead, try to be open and curious and resist stereotyping people. It's so easy to look at somebody and say, well, they're this race, or they dress this way, or they're this age, or whatever, or they're in this particular job, and you stereotype them. Don't do it. Create your own luck. This is something my wife and I practice all the time. Researchers have found that people who describe themselves as lucky, we always tell ourselves that we're lucky, okay, tend to notice things more than self-described unlucky people. They also act on unexpected opportunities, and they network well with others because they're curious. Unlucky people tend to be tense and so focused on narrow goals that they miss all the opportunities. Don't let accidents annoy you. Accidents can be a very good thing. Don't let those things annoy you. So I love mortuary YouTube channels. Really? I've never heard of such a thing. What is a mortuary YouTube channel, Tyann? I don't know what that is. And the rest of you guys, put some comments in here. Don't make Tyann do all the work. Put some comments in there. I say this all the time. Those people who participate in meetings, in chats, in live things, and they actually, when participation is not just watching, guys, it is putting comments in there, it's putting questions in there, it's telling me what you're doing in there. Those are the people that always end up being the most successful. Always, because they're vested in life. There is the saying that a life unexamined is not worth living. And that was said by Socrates. So if you're not examining things, so let's talk about these accidents in a second. Plenty of inventions, such as penicillin, the slinky, chewing gum, came because something didn't brush past an accident, but studied it instead. Okay, so all these things were accidents. Play with children's toys, right? Playing children are really good at making new connections. I'm not the least bit self-conscious about, playing toys with my grandchildren or anything, because you know what? It's fun. Okay. If you walk into just about every super creative company, you'll find toys all over the place because they open up your creativity. Next thing I would tell you is play and pretend. Playing and pretending is good. I want to check my time there. I don't want to go over. When you play, your mind can wander and your subconscious has time to work. This is why time off from work is necessary for creativity to bloom. You can't work all the time, not all the time. Explore the future. Imagine yourself being wildly successful 5 years from now. You've got to actually focus on that. You've got to put that out there. Cameron, what's going on in Pakistan, buddy? Good to see you. Cameron's my friend there. I think he's about 14 or 15 years old from Pakistan who always pops in. And let's see what Tyann's got to say. They talk about things that happen for burial or cremation, prep, and one does fascinating, funny history pieces on tragedies, such as the true story of Moby Dick. Really? All right, well, I'll check it out. I thought it was something down and depressing, but that sounds pretty cool, actually. So explore the future, okay? What was the first step you took towards moving towards your goal? Okay, write down the history of how you got there and ask yourself those questions. And you got to do this before you get there, right? Say, well, I'm really super successful at selling products online. And I say, okay, how'd you get there? And you said, well, I started searching products online. I looked at the top selling sites. I tested out like 10 products. I found 2 that work. I found another 10. See, this is what you do. You walk yourself through the success path that hasn't even happened yet. But this is how your mind works. It will try to figure out how to do these things. If you give it these problems, it will try to figure it out. So you may even ask yourself, what were the early obstacles and how did I overcome them? And you may say, well, advertising, I lost money on ads, and I lost money on ads because my creatives didn't work, and they didn't work because I had bad pictures. And see how you're starting to figure this out? So you need to change your pictures, okay? Leave something undone. At the end of the day, leave a task slightly unfinished. Now, it may be easier to start the next day, but that's because cognitive threads are left hanging in your mind. And as you go about your non-work activities, your subconscious might look into them and give you a sudden insight, okay? So you want to do that. Become a beginner. Learn how to do something new, such as hula hooping, juggling, learning Spanish, carving wood, archery, something, okay? Next thing, generate a lot of ideas. Now, some of you say, well, that's the problem I have right now is I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. This is part where you come up with ideas and lots of them. List unusual uses for common household items. This is where you start getting your brain in that function, okay? What are lots of different ways you could use a paperclip, a brick, a knife? Give yourself 5 minutes to come up with a long list. Now, you don't have to do this every day, all day, but a couple days a week, just pick up an item and list some stuff. This will grow that connectivity in your brain and make you more creative. Try toppling. This is where you use free association to get generating new words. The trick, though, is to use different kind of connection between each one. For example, if you start with the word carrot, okay, you can't free associate another vegetable, okay? Instead, you might try stick, all right? So in the phrase carrot and stick, then glue, because you're thinking of a glue stick, okay? See how this is kind of making your brain really kind of work? That's another thing a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to make the brain work. Another example is rock, which may lead to scotch, okay? Because you drink it on the rocks. You see that? See the connectivity there, but they're two entirely different things. Next thing you can do is set an idea time. Block out regular time when you're sharp, relaxed. That could be morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is, and not distracted, okay? The author, Julia Cameron, who was the author of a popular self-help book, The Artist Way, suggests taking 30 minutes each morning to free write in a journal. As you do, you'll notice new ideas creeping in. This is not something I do. This is not my way of doing it, but I'm trying to give you multiple ideas because what works for me is going to be different for you. And then the last thing I want to tell you about is called fusing ideas. Cameron says, there is a website I discovered, Wix.com. They create us free websites. Yeah, I'm familiar with Wix. The only drawback to Wix is that it's really limited as to what you can do with Wix. I always tell people, go to Shopify if you're doing e-commerce or go to WordPress. Wix and, what's the other one? GoDaddy, Web Creator, very limited, guys. You can't do a lot with it. But if you want a low-cost, simple one and you're not going to mess with it, yeah, you could use something like Wix. Cameron says, I couldn't watch your live streams because in Pakistan, people are forced for vaccine. My net was also stopped since my father did not put vaccine. Oh my gosh. I've heard of this like in China, where what they'll do is the government will control the population. You're a good citizen or you're a bad citizen, and the benefits of society don't get to you if you're not a good citizen. China does that too. It's a very scary thing because they're making you do certain things or cutting you off from public access things. It's really a weird deal. I have heard about that. I'm sorry to hear that, Cameron. Tyann says, I use a pen to open medicine aluminum, wrapping faster. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's hard to stick your finger through that thing, isn't it? Also for bursting seal on my cream or milk. Great idea. And that's a creative mind you've got, Tyann. I can see you've got it. So the next thing when I say fuse ideas, this involves doing those things. Okay. So by combining things that don't normally go together, there was a recent study by a British neuroscientist, Paul Howard Jones, and he asked people to create stories by giving them 3 words. To one set of people, the words were related, such as brush, teeth, shine. Another set of people received unrelated words, such as cow, zip, and star, okay? The people who received the unrelated words made up more creative stories. Now, isn't that crazy? So what you want to do is make remote associations, okay? Create a story that tells the connection between the two. Use analogies. Find similarity between 2 things that on the surface seem very different. Find something that is removed from the problem. Then define 5 structural properties of it. Instead of listing, say, sharp or metal for a knife, for example, you may want to identify things that require downward pressure to cut. How can those characteristics apply to whatever you're trying to solve? Okay, something to think about. There were rumors about vaccines. In 2 years, you could die. Yeah, I know. There's so much conflicting, crazy stuff out there, guys. I got the vaccine. My wife didn't. I respect everybody's opinion on that. I had my reasons for doing it. She had her reasons for not doing it. We're both right. We're both right. That's how it works. It was stupid, Cameron says. Yes, I'm sure it was stupid. And the next thing you can do, guys, and I really encourage this, and this is what you're doing right now. You may not even realize you're doing it. Engage with people who are different from you. Okay. So we hang out with people who are like us. And while doing so may be comforting and comfortable, because you're going to like people who are like themselves, it's not going to stretch your mind. Also, try imagining yourself as someone else. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but such as a chef, a foreign student, a building inspector. How would such people see the world? If you look at a problem through somebody else's eyes, you say, well, they would see it this way, but this is how I see it. So put yourself in their shoes for a second, okay? And then just try to pick your best ideas for anything. I've given you a lot of information today on how to be creative. Put in that comment section, what do you think of this? You think this is going to help you become more creative? Have you picked up a few things in here? I've dispelled that myth of the right and left brain thing, because that was flawed data. We now know it's flawed data. So what do you think of that? You think that's kind of different? Had you heard about the study that was done in the 90s? Have you heard about the study that was done in 2014 that was entirely different? That's some crazy stuff, right? Guys, I really appreciate you being here today. I didn't turn my AC on all the way in here. It is a little bit warm in this room today because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights on me, which to you probably just looks like normal light, but to me, I'm burning up. What do you think of the new design, guys? We got Hustle. I got my Gladiator here. These are reels of tape, film tape, like from the old movies, and that's what this is made into. You can't see all of it there. I got a clock over here, which you can only see the bottom of. I do have my bell, and by the way, you need to subscribe and ring the bell, turn on all bell notifications so you're notified each and every single time I go live. Tyann says the 2014 study was pretty cool. It's different. It was very different, different from what we've been told. I think sometimes we fall into these things that we hear as a kid. It can be a sexist thing. It can be a cultural thing. It can be a racial thing. It could be all kinds of weird stuff they tell us. We are all individual people, okay? You're not a man or a woman. Well, you are a man or a woman. I do believe that. But what I mean is that's not just what you are. You are a human being, okay? You're not of a certain race, even though you may be of a certain race. You can be anything you want. Don't let any of these outside influences just hold you down, really, and hold you back. I see it happen all the time. People will say, well, I was born in this neighborhood, so what do you expect out of me? Well, I was born in a really crappy neighborhood. If you saw that duplex I grew up in, you'd be like, oh my God, that's horrible, JR. And it was high crime, and I got in a lot of trouble as a kid and all that. But that doesn't define who you are. That's just something that was in the past, okay? I've been in different jobs, but I was not that job. That was just the job I was doing. So don't think, if you're working fast food or you're a secretary or you're a chef or whatever, that's who you are, because it's not. You may be good at that thing, but that's not who you are. That's just what you're doing. You can change and do anything else you want. Open your mind up to that. I learned the bilateral theory as well. Oh, good. So I'm not the only one. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Guys, I really appreciate you being here. I do have a course below that you could get. I am going to change that course, but right now I have this course. So I would suggest you grab this course. It's a $97 course. Get it absolutely free. And then I'm going to have a new course in there, and you can get that one absolutely free. And it's an entirely different one. The new course that I'm going to be giving away, and I should be selling it for about $497, but it is me over a period of days training one of the top CBD companies in the United States. They paid me to train their company. They flew out to San Diego at the time. I filmed all of this, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. It's really cool. But grab the one that's there now, because that means that one will go away. And that's free. It's in the description section once this video is over with. It's not there now. It'll be there as soon as this is over with. And this is what do you call it? Published? I guess published. So don't forget, ring the bell, hit the button, turn the button from red to gray, right? Give me a thumbs up if you would. Put any comments in here you want. Even if you're watching this after it's live, please put your comments in there. I'd really appreciate it. I put a lot of time and energy into this. I hope it helps you out. Not selling you anything, but the fact that you can do more, you can do creative things, and you can do better than what you're doing now. Not that what you're doing now is anything wrong with it. I'm going to say that. I'm just saying there's always more you can do. Guys, thanks so much for listening today. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate your comments. Hey, Cameron, stay in touch with me. I want to talk to you about Pakistan too. And there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Thanks so much for being here, guys. I will see you next time. Let me find my screen here before I say that. There's my screen. Then I can hit the end button here. Very good content. Tyann says, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you real soon.